Hello, everybody. It is Bruce Beck here, and today I'm joined by a good friend of mine, and who's becoming a dearer and dearer friend every time we talk, Steve Horsmon. And I invited Steve to this call to interview him because I think Steve has something really valuable to add to our journey of repairing relationships, the journey of maturing, becoming wise, particularly as a man. Now, well, he calls himself a men's coach from Colorado. I just asked him, Steve, how do I introduce you? He said, a men's coach from Colorado. I was like, okay. But I think I'm going to do better than that, Steve, because you're so much more than that. For me, Steve is a man, not a boy. Steve is someone I would trust to go to for advice if I needed it. Steve is someone who I think of, when I think of Steve, I think of somebody who has integrity, somebody who's grounded, somebody who knows who he is, who's not afraid of who he is, who's not ashamed of who he is, and who speaks his truth. He's also somebody who's wise. And so I invited him on this call, particularly for the men, although if you're a woman and you're watching this, I'm sure you're going to get tons of value. I really have no idea where this is going to go. Steve and I prepared a couple of quick questions. But I think what Steve has to bring to the table is valuable, and I wanted to share him with you. So with that, Steve, welcome. Thank you for giving us your time. And I wonder if you would just start off by perhaps sharing a little bit of your story, who you are, how you came to be where you are right now, like that.
Yeah, I like to keep things real simple. I'm a 57-year-old white guy from Colorado. It says a lot right there, 57-year-old white guy. And it almost left me wondering, how did I ever become entitled to have the life I have in the business I have working with the people I do? And it all started because I found out I was getting divorced back around my 50th birthday. It was the end of a 28-year relationship I thought was going to go forever. And I was pretty much acting in the nice guy mode. I was doing what I thought I needed to do, just kind of cruising through life, only to find out that somebody else had a whole different reality going on, namely my wife.
Yeah.
And that at the culmination of the end of my marriage and the divorce and everything that happened, I decided as a 50-year-old white guy to get into psychology and relationship psychology and physiology and sexuality and philosophy and find more about all of the things that make things work, because I was in pain. I was hurting bad. And that's who I talk to these days. I've made a complete business out of talking to guys who are just a slightly younger version of myself. So when I'm talking, I'm not talking to you. I'm actually talking to me.
So what do you help people do? What did you learn out of this divorce as a 50-year-old white guy, nice white guy? What did you learn that you share with men? I'm just curious to give people some context as to what you do.
Yeah. What I help guys find is mojo. And mojo is that term we use to talk about that masculine sense of well-being. Not that women don't have mojo. As women listen to this interview, they're going to know that all they got to do is flip this 180 degrees and they're going to see it exactly relates to them as well.
Yeah.
But with masculine mojo, it's about confidence in who you are and what you believe and what you see yourself to be as a man of value. What are your plans for the future? It's a calmness about your body. It's a calmness about your persona where you can be in relationship with the feminine and not constantly feel threatened and challenged and tested and always feel like you're walking on eggshells. It's a sense of clarity about who you are and what you want and how to talk about that without feeling the fear of being criticized or emasculated or judged. Every guy I talk to knows those feelings of being feeling small. And so what I help men is regain the mojo or find the mojo they thought they would never find. And I find them at the threshold of divorce, usually at their lowest point, which is where they're ready to finally do work. And it's hard to admit that some guys aren't ready to do this work until the massive pain and frustration of seeing a relationship fail.
Okay. So before we talk about what the work is, I'm curious, why is the nice guy not a good thing in relationship, and how did you being the nice guy lead to your divorce? Because I'll share with you why. I've also had experiences being the nice guy. I grew up as a geeky young nerd, and I got bullied at school, and I sought refuge in the company of the girls because they weren't going to beat me up. And I heard them complaining about how the guys were such jerks, and I grew up thinking, girls want nice guys. So I became the nice, sweet, amicable girlfriend, really. And I never got any woman. I always went into the friend zone. This is in my 20s until I kind of realized what was going on. And I discovered later on that women don't want nice guys. They also don't want jerks either. Maybe you can help us understand when you say nice guy, what that means and what goes wrong with it.
Yeah, sometimes it helps to talk about the traits of the classic nice guy, whether they have a journey like yours. My journey was of always being good, always pleasing people, always helping people, always being the funny guy, the good student, the good athlete, and thinking that if I kept being good, then I would get everything I ever wanted. Outside of marriage, that tends to work with friendships and even getting good jobs. When you get into the romantic, exclusive, monogamous sexual relationship, nice guyisms fall flat on their face. Dr. Robert Glover wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, and in there he has a list of traits of classic nice guy. So giving to get is one of them. One of those things that I found out that if I kept providing and kept doing things that I thought were nice, I should get the attention and the affection and the intimacy and the sex I desired. And when I didn't, I got silently angry. And then I would try harder to do. I would start having these secret contracts, he calls covert contracts, to manipulate and control women into giving me what I want. And the secret about the nice guy, while he's being nice, he's secretly stewing and upset and resentful. And while he's full of these feelings, he's wondering why he's not getting his needs met, which is funny. Like, I'm mad, I'm angry and resentful, and she won't give me sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So my work is looking at the traits of the nice guy, letting guys see what they've been doing and who they've been so they can go, oh my God. And this is the feeling guys get, oh my God. And how do I change this? And so I help them change that. I'm not in it to save their marriage. I have no control over saving their marriage. I do know that the only way the marriage will survive is when they become confident and clear and stop playing games and being inauthentic, and they get real with themselves about who they are. Sometimes a woman thinks that's trustable.
Yeah. So if we're not supposed to be the nice guy, what would you call the kind of guy that actually succeeds or that works in a romantic relationship? Do you have a name for it?
I think the guy who's most successful, if you want to use the word successful, I avoid terms like that because it sounds like we're measuring what's working and what's not. When you're operating in your authentic self, you're operating in accordance with a set of values, operating conditions. I call them MOPs, or masculine operating principles. When you know what you want from yourself and what you expect when nobody's even watching, what your character is, when you know what you expect for yourself and where your boundaries lie in the people you include in your life and those that you don't walk around with this air of expectation and entitlement. You're more in a position to give. It's called agape love, right? Agape love is an unconditional description of the way life should be, not conditional. The nice guy is always conditional. He always has conditions waiting to be met. The successful guy is able to give generously because he sees himself as a gift, as being okay. When we're not okay, we tend to be insecure, fearful, and we tend to give to get. So the successful guy knows who he is, what he wants, where he's going, and he gives fearlessly. That's my opinion.
Okay, got it. Now, I'm very curious to talk to you about how you go from being nice guy to being the fearless guy. But before we do, I wanted to ask you to elaborate on, you mentioned the term last time we spoke, the runaway wife. And I wondered maybe you could just share a little bit about what the runaway wife syndrome is and how the nice guy tends to find himself in a situation with a runaway wife.
Good question. The runaway wife is the end of a long process. The runaway wife is defined as all of the sudden she doesn't like me, all of the sudden she wants out, all of the sudden I'm not who she wants. She may love me, but she's not in love with me, and she's done. So she's already preparing for divorce or to find another life. That's the runaway wife. And you guys think it comes on suddenly, like in the last 2 weeks this happened. And most women I talk to go, you know what? This process has been firmly in motion for 2 years. Yeah. She's known almost 2 years ahead of time that this day was coming if something didn't change. Of course, she's been waiting for him to change and do something different. And of course, there's another side to this situation, which is her. We're not talking about her today. But she's been silently going darker and darker. I tell the guys to think of an office building with all the lights that were on, which was your happy, healthy marriage. And 2 years ago, lights started going out one by one. And now it's a dark office building. And now she's saying she's running away. He's surprised. The nice guys usually respond to this with utter terror. All of a sudden, everything they've done that they thought was successful to keep the marriage together, they tried to do more of. More talking, more conversation, more heavy, deep analysis, more whys and whats and wheres and whos and hows, and they become very grippy, very needy. Yeah. And the more they try to hold on to it, the harder it is to hold on to. Yeah. It's that paradox that when you find something going wrong in your relationship, the worst thing you can do is pounce on it and try to save it by smothering it. So I teach guys what it means to back off and what giving your space means and how to take care of yourself during this time.
Very, very clear. It reminds me a lot of the hailstorm archetype I talk about.
I love that metaphor.
Yeah. They tend to get into their partner's face, and they're typically not very good at self-soothing. They are overly dependent on their partner for soothing. And it's exactly that. They need to learn how to soothe themselves, which is exactly what you're saying. Right. Okay, so what I'm hearing you're saying is that the nice guy tends to not notice that things are going wrong. He ignores them for so long. His wife's maybe been pleading with him to, open up or to, talk more or to whatever. She's gone for so long without having her needs met, and he's been so self-absorbed he hasn't seen it, that now she's fed up and she's had it and she's out of there. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, great. So the bridge then is what? How do you go from being Mr. Nice Guy? Obviously, I can't tell you, share an entire process in a few minutes, but maybe give us the bird's eye view. What has to happen in order for somebody to find themselves feeling like they can actually feel comfortable in their own skin again? Because that's asking a lot when you're feeling needy, desperate, scared, anxious. How does that happen? How do you do that?
Yeah. It's first recognizing what's been happening. It's really hard for a man to first realize. I show him a picture. I call it a thermometer. It's a graphic we came up with. I won't show on screen now, but picture a master gauge on a dashboard that goes from green to red, right? Okay. From good to bad. And that's the thermometer. That's the emotional energy of a woman. And at the red end, it's she loves me not. At the green end, she loves me. Most of us nice guys have a way of putting an umbilical cord, a cable attaching to that. And that when we find out that we've been living in a way that we've been trying to get all of our validation from her. If she's having a good day, we are. If she's not, we're not. If she's happy, we're happy. If she's not happy, we're not happy. When I explain this to a guy, he goes, "Oh my God, I've been like a leech. I've been attached to her. I've been so subservient, so subordinate. I haven't owned my own gift. And how could I have done this? It must have been so much pressure on her. And I feel like shit, right? Feels bad." And so you have to first see the graphic and understand the way he's been. And then he wants to be different. And the first thing we do is take a 3-foot pair of bolt cutters and we cut that cable. And we ask, what would it be like to be your own man as you float away from the thermometer and you become her equal and you become a man of mojo, confidence, clarity, calmness in yourself, and just total conviction about that you're a gift all by yourself. How would you be now? And he goes, well, that's what I want. That's the first step of escaping unconscious incompetence, that first stage of being a good guy, not knowing what you don't know, to the next step of being an awakened guy, of now you're consciously incompetent. Yeah. You now know what you didn't know. Yeah. And the next stage is the awakened guy who goes, I am going to start learning how to become a different man. Most guys at this stage want to start doing things to fix this. Fix it, change her, make her like me. So they do, and it crashes and burns every time, because what she wants most from a man in her life is not a man trying to do things to please her. She wants a man who knows how to be a confident, calm, clear man. And so most guys will go, shoot, take me there. Moving on to the great man spectrum of being unconsciously competent, becoming natural in this energy, my program lasts 12 weeks because it took me 90 days to have the first few switches go on, working with initiated men, helping me see these things come on. And it's funny, somebody asked me, why don't you do a year-long program with the man on this? I said, because it doesn't take a year to get this. If I give him a year to work on this, he's going to take 364 days. Yeah. A man can change quickly when his thoughts change. Yeah. This is inside-out thinking. And when his thoughts start changing, he changes quickly. And the biggest problem here, Bruce, as soon as she sees him changing quickly and making major transformation,
doesn't believe it.
doesn't believe it, and she goes, if you could have done it this easily now, why didn't you do it 10 years ago? Which is a valid question. Right?
I hear this all the time. I exactly, yeah. I want to deepen something that you shared, because I think it's a critical key component to how you work, and I want to deepen it with a story. I think I was 20 years old when I was first exposed to the Mankind Project. And they came to South Africa, to Cape Town, and they ran a weekend program called Crossing the Threshold. And I attended this program as a 20-year-old, and I was terrified, because I was a very feminine guy. In fact, people would often think I was gay. In fact, now it's for the opposite. I don't think I'm feminine anymore. People think I'm gay because I'm so in touch with my emotions. I still get called me gay. I'm like, I mean, not that I have anything against gay people, but I'm so heterosexual. How could you think I'm gay?
I get that too, Bruce. I get it too.
Anyway, I go to this course, and it's a course for men, given by only men. And there are these big, burly men. One guy has like long hair, and he looks like a freaking Norwegian warrior. And we do things in the weekend where we're being physical with each other. And it was a terrifying, in a good way, weekend that was a turning point for me and got me very comfortable being around men. And I don't know if it's possible as a man to find your mojo outside the company of men. I don't think you'll find it in women. And I particularly think it's important. I'm going a little tangent. I'm going to get back to you in a second. I was talking to a couple the other day, and he was wanting to open their relationship so he could sleep with more women. And we didn't get the time to go deep enough into it, but I recognize that particular man who can't commit and who always wants to jump from woman to woman to woman and who seeks the company of multiple women is usually a man who's uninitiated into manhood, who hasn't learned to be comfortable in the company of men. And I was that man, or boy, should I say. And this program changed my life. And so a big part of what you do, in fact, I think it's a massive part of what you do, is you work exclusively with men in the company of other men. And I wonder if you can speak about the importance of men in a man's journey.
Yeah. I guess to build on what you already said, I want to make the distinction between initiated men and men who have not yet made the journey. A lot of us have spent a lot of time around men who are not a good representation of positive masculinity, right? So I spent a lot of my years around insecure, fearful men, angry men, racist men, sexist men, right? A lot of us, the whole locker room thing, all of us have seen this. It's not unusual. And so when you're ready for transformation, you have to understand who an initiated man is, and also what kind of men you need to remove from your life, ones who have become toxic for you. So the importance of men leading other men is critical. Like you said, you can't learn how to be a man from a woman. Although I believe in the spiritual gift and energy of a female to inspire a man out of his head and into his heart, as David Dita says, I believe in the power of the relationship to help a man grow and challenge him. When it comes down to the foundational characteristics of what it means to be a confident, calm, clear man of value, one where you know that your value and worthiness is innate in your masculinity, and it's not measured by how many women you screw and how many women you conquer. When you become to understand that, your whole system slows down. Your heart rate slows down, your breathing slows down. I call it mountain lion energy compared to hummingbird energy. And hummingbird energy is 300 beats a minute, and I just need to get laid, I need to get laid, I need to get laid energy. The mountain lion knows he's going to get laid, but he doesn't care when. He's totally outcome independent, and he's not tied to the reactions of other people. Initiated men know this, and they teach this, and they embody it, and they model it for other men who don't yet know it. That's what my community does. I've developed leaders in my own community, mentors who work in my system, who are helping new guys coming in all the time. And this is not to avoid women, right? We are not men going their own way because we love women. We just realized that to be in healthy relationship with women, you better damn sure be healthy yourself, or else you're going to start trying to suck off the tit of validation and approval and acceptance, and no woman wants to feel that.
Yeah. So, as Robert Bly, I think, would say, we are a bunch of boys wandering around who haven't been initiated into manhood. And that's what most men in today's culture, and I think particularly the youth growing up today, many of whom have grown up without masculine mentors or strong father figures in their own lives, grow up into adult boys. And you're talking about what I'm going to call men as initiated men who've been initiated into manhood. Now, I wonder if you could talk about what that means. I have my version of it that I grew up seeing growing up in Africa, where we would see boys with white faces on the street, and they were going off into the bush to spend a week to be circumcised with the men. And they go off at 14 or 15, and they spend a week purely in the company of men out in the bush, learning how to be men from the elders. And I think in our modern culture, in our Western world, that ritual or rite of passage has been lost. And so I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about what that looks like. What is an initiation into manhood?
In the year 2018?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's usually not that. We don't go out and do that stuff, although Mankind Project programs help with some of that in their New Warrior weekends and things. In my business, I can't help the boys of the world without first helping the men of the world. And what's going on now in 2018 is that most men aren't ready for their initiation until they feel the pain of something that has rocked their world to its core. Because they've missed their initiation in their teens, they're now coming into a relationship as an immature man. And it's only through the pain and struggle. Some men make it and figure it out. But when they get to the pain of being accused of being inadequate, lover, of being insufficient as a man, of not being good enough, it triggers that boyish shame, that fear that we have that we're not powerful and that we're not good enough and that we're pussies. And when that shame trigger gets triggered, that's when a man's initiation starts these days. And because we're not heading it off at the pass. So my business is catching men at that early point. My clients are getting younger and younger, though. Over the years, they're not so much 40s and 50s and 60s. At my retreat this last weekend, I had a 31-year-old from New York City. He's got it. He's coming in early, and that's my hope, is that I can help evolve this system to where guys are coming in earlier and not waiting until they're 55, getting divorced and feeling that pain. But the truth is, for men, I'm finding out there is a certain level of discomfort and pain that causes them to want initiation. Because as you know, nobody is going to go through initiation, man or woman, without actually wanting to.
Yeah, totally. So I still don't really have a picture of what an initiation might involve. And the reason I'm asking, I mean, I know personally what it might involve, but I imagine somebody watching this might be associating initiation with, I don't know, for me, when I went to high school, all the new kids in grade 8 got their heads flushed down a toilet by these bullies. And that was kind of our initiation rite of passage into high school. It was horrible and terrible. That's not what you're talking about.
No.
Maybe you could share a little bit about what goes on your weekend, so that people can get a sense of it.
Yeah, both in my 12-week program, which takes 4 months, and my retreats, the weekend retreats, I follow the same model. It's accelerated when we're in 3 days. And I'm sure you've heard the metaphor, there being two islands in a man's life. There's this island of pain and discomfort and misery, and somewhere out there on the ocean over the horizon is another island that actually represents the pleasure he wants. The connection, the intimacy, the depth, the intellectual stimulation, and the overall, the conversations and vulnerability that he wants. People don't believe this about men, but we're romantic. We're loving, we're sensitive, we're caring. We love to cry at movies if people will let us. And on this island is where he feels safe and confident and clear. So the initiation is starting at this island, and I draw a picture of a sailboat. Literally, we draw pictures of a sailboat, and we literally have him cut the stern line with an axe, because he has to leave the island of pain, make it out through the harbor, through the breakwater into the open ocean. And there's many islands that dot the way along this initiation, and the very first one is the operating principles island. I use Nuts, Wayne Levine's book, Hold On to Your Nuts, is a great book. Nuts Island, sometimes we call it, where this is where a man starts discovering his non-negotiable terms as a man, his masculine operating principles, his values, if you will, what he expects of himself and for himself in his life, and what his boundaries are, and what is he willing to act on and defend. And we leave that island and we go to another island.
Hold on. Yeah. Let's go back to that island for a second and give me an example of a masculine operating principle.
Oh, good. I'm glad you slowed me down because this boat was sailing fast. And that's good. They sound like these. I always ask them to start out with, I am a man who expects blank of himself when nobody's watching. And so they sound like, I am a man who expects honesty of himself when nobody's watching. I often say, what do you do with your shopping cart at midnight at the grocery store? Do you put it in the cart corral or you just shove it out in the parking lot? Nobody's watching.
Yeah.
A man will say, I am a man who expects integrity of myself when nobody's watching. I am a man who expects openness and transparency of myself. I am a man who expects to defend my children when nobody's watching. And these can go on and on and on. The next list is, I am a man who expects blank for himself. Most men believe you're kind of an asshole if you finish a sentence like, I expect this for myself. Well, are you an asshole if you say, I am a man who expects to surround myself with people who share my values for respect, honesty, and intimacy? Is that an asshole thing to say? Some guys go, well, that's kind of a little self-absorbed, isn't it? Don't jerks. Well, to say that you're a man who expects a life and people who share your values for respect, intimacy, whatever I said, honesty, there's nothing wrong with that. But most guys, if they haven't been initiated, will avoid stating what they expect for the life that they want to create because they don't have a creation mindset. They're in total reaction mode. And the last example might be a boundary. Like, what would make you stand up to somebody, confront somebody if they crossed a boundary? For many men, if anybody disrespects, intimidates, or threatens my children, I will positively and quickly and immediately stand up to that person and defend my kids.
Yeah.
So those are some examples of that.
Just as you said that, I felt this sense of, you know, as you said, I will positively, quickly, and whatever, like stand up and, you know, like that for me, and I'm sure other people watching this have felt, that for me is one of the hallmarks of an initiated man. You're around them and you feel like you can relax because they're safe to be around. They're safe not because they won't hurt you. They're safe because you know they'll protect you if something happens. And I think that's particularly attractive in a woman, whereas a nice guy, you know, somebody can, insult his girlfriend in a restaurant, and instead of standing up to protect her, he'll be like, honey, let's leave. Or he'll just ignore it. Or he won't have the balls to be able to stand up and protect what's valuable for him because he doesn't believe he's worth it. Or he's afraid, I imagine. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm kind of
good example. Yeah, good example. And a lot of women will tell me, I do get to talk to a lot of wives and even Brene Brown will say in her books that when a man is indecisive and wishy-washy and he's not really clear about what he values, they can make a real quick judgment. Like somebody breaks into the house tonight and she wakes him up and he makes her go check it out, right?
Yeah.
That the fear is that he won't be able to stand for her and with her against danger. And Brene apologizes for that, but it's a thing that goes on sometimes in the feminine mind when it comes to protection and safety.
Yeah, I totally get that. Happened to us the other night, actually.
Did it really?
We heard a noise outside the front door of our apartment, and must have been 2 a.m, and there was this noise that sounded like somebody was in the house, and I had to get out of bed and go armed with nothing but my fists and go wander around this dark house, kind of looking behind doors and searching everything. And I remember not as a 20-something being in that same situation and having asked my girlfriend at the time to do it. Like she got out of bed because I didn't actually ask her directly. I just refused to get out of bed. So eventually she got out of bed to go and explore the house when I was in my 20s. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm glad I got over that.
Wow. Amazing that just happened to you too. Wow. It was nothing to take it, right? Nothing?
No, it was nothing at all. I mean, I have no idea what it was, but it certainly wasn't anybody in the house. What was interesting is the door was locked, so like there's no way anybody could have come in anyway. But still, I was terrified, and still I was like, okay, well, if somebody is here, I'm gonna do my best at beating the crap out of him, or I'm gonna get killed, one of the two. And it didn't seem to bother me that much. You know, it was like, it's going to be one of the two. And I think for me, that willingness to face death to protect those that I love is a hallmark of a solid man that I can count on. Anyway, I've completely sidetracked you from Island 1. We went to Island 1, which is all about getting clear about your values, right? And what you stand for. What's island 2?
Island 2 is where we face the fact that we had habits that we're not proud of. At this island, I use Dr. Glover's work in No More Mr. Nice Guy to help a man understand his social programming that he had. He didn't have a whole lot of control over some of the socialization he got on what it meant to be a man and how to be as a man. When he reads about the programming he got that made him kind of manipulative, kind of controlling, and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? He was just calculated in the way he was trying to get his needs met. Nice guys tend to be very subversive.
Yeah, passive aggressive as well.
Yeah, passive aggressive. And so when they learn this on this island, that this is where they get this thump of coconut up on the head, like, wow. Because I'm not a therapist and I don't believe in dwelling too much in the past. It takes a man a very quick understanding of going, holy shit.
Agreed.
This is true. This is right. I am ready to move on. Can we get off this island now? Because what comes next, they ask. And what comes next is, number 3 is the island of understanding confidence. What is the true nature of confidence and where it comes from? I don't know if you want me to keep talking about
I do. I'm like, what is the true nature of confidence? Where does it come from? In a sentence, what would you say the true nature of confidence is? I'm curious.
The confidence is not in what you know or what you do. It's in who you are, right? And that's a really quick way to say it. But most guys have come to become good students, good athletes, good mechanics, good problem solvers, good fixers, good leaders, good managers, even good at bedding down numbers of women. And so they measure confidence by knowledge, skills, and achievement. But when they get in a relationship with a woman and the shit's hitting the fan and it's all falling apart, they have no confidence. And I tell them it's because you've never had confidence. You've had false confidence. True confidence is believing in who you are, what your value is, where you stand, and how you respond to trauma, how you respond to all those negative things that happen. Because when you're in reaction mode, you're acting like a little boy. When you believe your confidence is nailed in just by what you do, you come to in a relationship and you expect a woman to accept your confidence. Well, I tell a man that a woman is hardly impressed by all of the money you've made and all the women you've bedded down and how good you are at sports. In the beginning, sure, there's some polarity there. Women dig some of that stuff. But when you're in a committed, romantic, sexual relationship that's going bad, she is totally unimpressed with what you've done. All she cares about is who you have been being. And confidence comes from who you know you are and how you're being. It's a being energy instead of a doing energy, which confuses a lot of guys. On this island, that's where we learn the difference between being a man and doing things to look like a man.
Okay, so the question I imagine somebody watching this might be asking is, yeah, Steve, but isn't confidence something you're born with? I mean, how do you go from being a man who's falsely confident to a man who's confident?
Yeah, born with. My coach likes to say confidence is not a prerequisite, confidence is a result. And I like that because there's no such thing as being born with confidence. There's such a thing as being born with bravado, with maybe an inflated sense of ego and sense of self. There's a lot of that. That's misconstrued as confidence. But you put those guys into a failing relationship, they crumble into a 12-year-old boy immediately because they have no real confidence about themselves. And so it's developed. It's a learned behavior. Confidence is learned first through thought and understanding the difference between the old type of confidence and the real type of confidence. Then it comes in practice and performing in the context of relationship. I think you say the best part to get better at relationship is in relationship, right? This is where we get triggered and all those things happen. And so when a man is trying to save his marriage, I tell him, don't divorce. If you're going to get divorced, make sure that you're happy, confident, self-centered, calm, and clear-headed. But until then, use this time in your life to practice these new skills you're learning from Confidence Island and all the other ones we go to, and do your best job of becoming your best self in the face of this storm you have right now. Only then will you know if this marriage was savable or not. Don't leave pissed off. It's the worst way to leave a relationship.
Beautiful. Do you know Annie Lala, Steve?
No, I don't.
Annie Lala is the wife of Evan Pagan.
Oh, okay. I know it.
She calls herself a love coach, and she's one of the most profoundly wise women I've ever met. And I derive a lot of inspiration from reading her stuff and talking with her. And one of the things she teaches, which is exactly in line with what you're saying, is never break up unless you're in love.
I love it.
The
Perfect.
idea is that, unless you're in love, you haven't resolved your shit and you're running away. If you're breaking up in love, you're breaking up for the right reasons. You're breaking up because, you want different things out of life, not because you have beef with each other. She says, until you can love your partner and you're back in love with them, you don't break up with them, you're just running away. And I think in many situations, that's profound advice.
It is, and I think there's a corollary there that for the people I work with, there's no way they can actually fall back in love. And I don't mean in that energetic sense. I'm talking about the love being characterized by deep compassion and empathy, deep understanding and affection and appreciation.
Yeah,
right?
she's not talking about romantic, infatuated love. Exactly.
Yeah. And a man cannot achieve those with a woman until he's achieved those with himself. If he has an emptiness inside him of anger and resentment. In fact, on the sailboat trip, there's a reef called the Reef of Anger and Resentment, and we teach how to get off it. If you have anger and resentment inside you, you cannot possibly properly love another person. So you have to find a way to get rid of that. And of course, the answer from there is empathy, compassion, and forgiveness. Until you learn those skills, you're always stuck on the reef. And that's the reef of divorce as well, by the way.
Yeah. Got it. Wow. This is rich. How many other islands are there?
Oh, there's about 6 or 7 other islands, depending on where you are in your life. But
okay. Beautiful. I want to, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about how you work with men, actually the format of how it works, so they come to you. But before I go into the kind of the how, is there anything else you wanted to say about this topic of masculinity or initiation or runaway wives or, or maybe I'll frame that as one option, or another option is like, what's the biggest thing you've learned in your time working with men? You can answer either or both.
Now, maybe they're related, the two questions you asked. The big thing that men find out, my marketing process attracts them with what they think they need. They think they want more sex. They think they want more connection. They want more conversation. They want more, I already said sex, intimacy. They think that's what they want. And when they come into the program, they see that they'll never get enough of what they don't really need to be happy. There is no amount of sex or conversation or intimacy that's going to make them well. Because what they learn is that there's a part of them that's been missing in this process. So the big message is that when you think that your life is falling apart at the hands of a woman who has done this to you, what you have to realize is that this is something you've created within yourself, and you can just as easily uncreate it and create something new. That's the thing. When a man sees he's in control of his mojo, his happiness, his self-esteem, his confidence, calmness, and clarity, and he can create the life he wants with her or without her. Again, I'm not as much an advocate for the relationship as I am for him becoming a whole human being. When he finds that out, he goes, I had this backwards the whole fucking time. And I've had the order wrong. He always thought he needed her to make him well so he could be well. And now he knows I need to be well before I can expect anybody else to be well with me. That's the ticket.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, I know, Steve and I've jammed this many times. I'm going to just touch on 30 seconds. Many of you watching this will have heard me talk about the power of healing each other in a relationship. And it may sound like Steve and I are contradicting each other, where Steve's talking about healing yourself and not relying on anybody else to heal your wounds for you. And I'm talking about working together to heal together. And I think we're actually on the same page, because we're talking about two different kinds of wounds. And the kinds of wounds I am talking about are wounds that can only be healed in relationship. They're wounds that are created in relationship and can often only be healed in relationship, and that don't show up when you're single. You actually need another person in your life in order to have them show up and work through them. And then there are other kinds of wounds that are not that. And I think depending on which kind of wound you're working with will determine whether or not this is something you can heal yourself or something you need somebody else to heal. Steve, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that. I sound like I'm defending my point of view, which is, to myself, I sound like that, which is not how I'm hoping to come across. But we were in agreement on this the other day. If you have anything to add, please do. If not, I have another question.
No, I totally agree. I use an analogy of concentric circles, right? You take two circles, which is, me and my girlfriend. We have me, Steve, me, her. And in relationship, those circles overlap and create that football-shaped overlap. It's a Venn diagram. That's the we space of the relationship. there's healing that needs to be done in the me space all by myself due to wounds that she has nothing to do with and really doesn't want to be involved in healing.
Yeah.
But also there's the relationship wounds, and also what the values are of the relationship. I think a relationship should have nuts as well, or operating principles. You should have values for the relationship. Yeah. And healing happens there when you two decide to start creating, defending, and promoting the values of your relationship. And sometimes you got to also know what triggers each other, right? Those unhealed childhood wounds. It's important. If you're not healthy, you can't admit to your unhealed wounds. If you're not healthy, you can't help nurture someone else's wounds. You take everything personally. And that's my work with men, is to stop thinking it's all about you. Stop thinking that everything is a personal attack, and step up and realize part of your gift is in understanding and giving and compassion. And when you get well, life becomes a whole lot easier because you're not trying as hard as you used to.
Beautiful. Thank you. So paint a picture of how you work with men. I know you live on a farm out in the middle of nowhere in Colorado with a bunch of horses, and you're passionate about animals and horses particularly. Like, how would you work with men? What does that look like?
I always say it goes from, all they can do is come to my website. I intentionally create gobs and gobs of content at goodguys2greatmen.com.
That's a great
There's
idea.
a number 2 in between there. Over 130 videos, blogs that just keep on going on and on. There's conversations I'm having in my private Facebook group. If guys want to get in there, I ask them to attend a retreat or do coaching to get into my community of initiated men, which is unbelievable. I do group coaching. I have a men's cave group coaching program that 3 of them are going on this year. One's finished.
I love it.
The men's cave group coaching. It's 6 guys, only 6 guys. It's a brotherhood, and they spend 4 months together in my 90-day program. We travel the sailboat together, and we all do it
virtually or in person.
It's all on Zoom, just like this. It's live. It's you know, the only thing about you and I that's not fully intimate is I can't touch you, right?
Yeah.
And so this is really live. Yeah. So we do it live virtually, and then we have one-on-one coaching. I have a colleague in England who also takes clients, and we do the 4-month program just one-on-one. Sometimes a man just wants all the attention. He wants to travel this alone with his mentor, with his navigator, as we call ourselves, and we do it that way. And it's just the beginning. That's the tip of the iceberg. After that, I expect lifelong brotherhood, lifelong friendship, lifelong involvement in the community. And I also have a requirement of men who finish my program to become a mentor of other men. So I ask them for wherever they are in the world, Australia, Sweden, Las Vegas, that when a man comes in my community and he wants somebody to talk to, I ask him if they're ready to talk to a mentor, and I let these guys pick them up and father them for a while. And so that's an expectation that you learn that you're going to become a leader of men when you do this. You're not just fixing your stuff. You're going to help lead other men as well.
Beautiful. Okay, I have 2 more questions for you, and then we'll wrap. This question may feel counterintuitive. What can women who are watching this and who relate to their man as not being initiated, they're not in their head going, yep, that's my man, he's not initiated. What can they do to help their nice guy not be such a nice guy, if anything? It's
a very good question, but it's a very hard one too.
Okay.
First, it's edgy for a woman to try to change a man, to tell him he needs to be better. A lot of them typically do it through complaining or nagging, and it's usually a feminine way of trying to highlight an issue. Some of them have dropped articles in their lap, like some of my blogs or something like that. That's worked on a marginal basis. I've had a few really successful clients whose wives pushed them into a group coaching program.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's a feminine part of this, which is every bit as important and powerful as the masculine part. There's a lot of people doing work, men and women doing work with women about what powerful feminine energy is. When initiated feminine energy is in the room, it tends to inspire a man to be the best he can be. And I would encourage women, before they want to change him, inform him, or educate him, to make sure that you are as good as you could possibly be. There's some very advanced work that Alison Armstrong does and a variety of other women's coaches that help women understand men to a point to where instead of being critical or negative toward how he is being as a man, to learn to appreciate and adore and respect the part of him that is uniquely man, that will help him feel more bold in owning his stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's
beautiful, because you're leading into a thought that was in my head. that one of the things I teach women and men is praise the behavior you want, ignore the behavior you don't want. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about, appreciating and praising. I think praising a man when he does something masculine is going to encourage him a lot more to keep doing that than criticizing him when he doesn't. And you answered my second question, which was, what are some resources for women who are relating to this journey, but for the feminine? And is there a journey for the feminine? And of course, there is. Alison Armstrong's, I think, a great resource for women. Any others you'd want to throw in there?
Rachel Jane Groover out of Fort Collins, Colorado. She's an Aussie, but she's relocated here. She's amazing. She wrote Feminine and Powerful, the book, and does the art of feminine presence all around the world, Australia, Canada, Japan, and she's amazing. She's been my mentor, and I've taken some of her training classes, because she's an amazing human being. Wow. Her and her husband are a great role model for the kind of relationship that I hope for people.
Great. Steve, thank you. Is there anything else you want to add? Like, this has been such a rich conversation. I know we're getting up to our hour mark, and I want to respect your time. Anything else you want to add about the topic, men, masculinity, initiation, runaway wives?
Just a vote of encouragement for the men out there. I just finished my 3-day retreat here at my little ranch this weekend, and we do incredible work. My heart is full now. For the men who are watching, who are feeling this, I call it death by female. You feel eviscerated, like everything is crashing around you and it's all happening to you. I want you to know first, you're not alone. This happens every freaking day. Yeah. You're going to be fine, and all you've got to do is take a big, deep breath and realize that your wellness lies within you, not outside you. So do the work. However you do it, just do the work. You're going to be fine. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. It's been a joy, as always, connecting with you. And I really appreciate you giving me so much of your time and sharing it with the people who trust me for relationship advice. I think you bring something unique and deeply needed and often missing from relationship repair work. So you're awesome. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it.
I want to thank you too, Bruce. I appreciate you and everything you do. And it's such an honor to be on your show and being interviewed by you. I followed you, like I told you the other day. I've been following you without you knowing about it. So
it's interesting. I've been following you without you knowing about it too. And so for everybody watching, go follow Steve. Sign up for his newsletter at goodguystogreatmen.com. And Steve sends out, I don't know, bi-weekly emails, and he makes a lot of videos, and they're really good. And they talk about real issues. I watch a lot of your videos, Steve, and I think they're great. They're like Steve just in front of the camera talking, but talking wisdom, speaking wisdom, and yeah, really great resource.
Thank you.
And Good Guys to Great Men. How else can people contact you? I assume there's a contact form on the website if people want to get
contact form there. Absolutely. If you comment on a YouTube video, we'll always get back through there too. I mean, we're pretty attentive to our community. We take care of people, and so however you want. My email address is steve@goodguystogreatmen.com. I'm not afraid of sharing all that.
Great. I'll put a link to your website beneath the video as well.
All right.
All right, buddy. It's been a treat. Thanks for your time.
Me too. Thank you.